welcome back. It is a beautiful day today in Southern California. This is why we pay the sunshine tax, to have the beautiful, perfect weather. I am eternally grateful to have a very, very special guest here today on episode 5 of Under Contract, where we discuss all of the contracts that you make with yourself, be it in finances, be it in your health, be it in your personal life, business, or all of the above. It's really important to honor those commitments that you make with yourselves, because I can tell you right now, I broke a commitment to myself literally 5 minutes before getting here today. So it happens. But do you stay stuck in that space? No, you get up, you learn from it, you move forward, and you can take what it's a perceived setback and turn it into probably a launching pad to what's next for you. So today, I am so excited to have a long dear friend of mine who truly is the epitome of taking what could be perceived setbacks in life, not just one, a multitude of them, turned it around, pivoted, and is thriving beyond thriving right now. She is a massive influence in the health and wellness industry. She influences women who are going through what we call midlife experiences, not a crisis, but experiences, and everything in between. She is a proud mother to a beautiful young girl whom I've just recently reconnected with, and she's a grown young woman now. But Natalie Jill is here today, you guys. And if you know anything, if you're on social media, Natalie Jill Fitness is her handle. That is her world. Natalie, welcome. I can't tell you how excited I am. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Tammy. I always love connecting with you.
Well, I think that since the last time we actually spent any time with one another, it was probably, 14 years ago? Somewhere around there-ish.
That long?
Let's think about it. Let's think about when you were going through the first life transition.
Oh my gosh, that was like 17 years ago.
Okay, so 17 years ago. And then 3 years we hung out, did our thing, worked out. We were in this Southern California lifestyle as we know it. And then life had took off for you. Like, you were in a corporate position, you were no longer in a corporate position, you were in a marriage that was having some challenges, and then you decided to take these perceived challenges and pivot. The rest is history. So tell us a little bit about, okay, so you have this massive presence, right? Let's walk through the process real quickly, because there are women out there, there are men out there that are faced with what we call a storm in life. And if everything that could possibly go wrong is going wrong for them, and one can either look at it and go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This is my life. I have no hope. Or you can look at it and go, hell no. Yeah, I'm turning this around. So walk us through. You were going through what? And it landed you where?
So first, I want to just share that who I am today is not who I always was. So if you were to Google me and see me on the cover of magazines or best-selling books and all that, I just want you to know that's not who I always was, and it's not who I always am. You know, we have different phases in our life, and we become different things at different times. And what I want to share first as kind of an overriding theme is that we are not our circumstances. We are never our circumstances. We are our possibility. We're our potential. We're our future version of ourselves. We're whatever we decide we want to focus on. And it's very hard to do that when you're in circumstance. So I have a lot of compassion for those of you listening that are in circumstances of your life, whatever that might be right now. I've had many different times in my life where circumstances really weighed heavy on me, and I couldn't think outside of it. But it was the forcing to think outside of it that changed the trajectory of my life. And I continue to have experiences that throw me in circumstance. And I continue to remind myself in those places, you're not your circumstances. You can rise above this, but you have to see a future version or future vision of yourself. So I'll just start with, and I'm kind of giggling because right before we hit record, my daughter's here right now, and we had her do like a little mock. I should have her explain my story because we said, I said my daughter is really good at telling my story. It's quite comical how she tells it now. She's almost 17 at the time of us recording this right now, but my journey really started when she was a newborn. And the reason I say that is back she's mocking me as I'm explaining this, but years ago, this was my first experience with this. So I was a regular person. I was in corporate America. I had just gotten married. I had the 2 dogs.
The American dream.
Right. I went to college. I did all the things that I thought I was striving to do. I had the career. I had a baby on the way. I had the marriage. I had all the things. And for the first time in my life, I went through a massive, massive compounded setback. First, when you have a baby, you can go through massive hormone shifts. I had definitely postpartum depression. But also to add to that, I was going through a divorce. And I knew I was going to be a new single mom, which I was working full time in corporate America, traveling, and there was no way I was going to be able to continue doing that. I could not travel full time with a new baby. Yeah. So I had to make a decision. I was going to take a voluntary job demotion. But this was also back in 2007. And you're in real estate. You know what happened in 2007. The entire housing market had collapsed. Yeah. Everything had collapsed. And I owned a home that I no longer could afford. Not because I bought something over my head, but because of a lot of circumstances going on. Things had changed dramatically. So just painting the picture, postpartum depression, new mom, had gained about 60 pounds when pregnant, 60. I'm 5'2", so that's a lot. It's not just making you human. In fact, when she was born, she was a little over 6 pounds. And I remember her saying, does the placenta weigh? 40.
Does that count? Does that count?
I don't understand.
How is that possible?
Right. So I heard that. But then, you add going through a divorce and you add losing your house. Yeah. And the pivotal moment for me was going to put gas in my car and my credit card being declined for the first time in my life.
For how much?
First time in my life.
For how much?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember the amount. But what happened was I called American Express from the gas station, and I said, I don't understand, why was my card declined? I've never been late on a payment ever. And they said, well, you're not paying your mortgage. And they said, you are $1.4 million in debt on your credit. And I remember hearing this $1.4 million
my gosh,
on my credit report, and just feeling like I was in quicksand, like not knowing how to get out of that, like how to get myself up from that. Like I had to call my mom and ask her to co-sign for me to get to be able to get another card and to be able to do life. So I'm sharing this because I had a lot of circumstances, and anyone I had shared those circumstances with, if I had, let's say, you're right, that sucks. Like, you're right, your life sucks. And to add compounding to that, I felt super fake. And the reason I felt super fake is I had built a life becoming the type of person I thought everybody else wanted. Like, go to college, check, get married, check, like all the things. And now my life was crumbling and I didn't know how to share that authentically. So what changed for me and what launched what I'm about to share more of was that I was on a walk, and I remember I was walking my baby at the time and my 2 yellow labs, and I was on a walk and I caught this window that you have a mirror reflection looking back at you from the window. You know what I'm talking about? You've seen those. And I just had this moment with myself where I looked and I'm like, Natalie, is this where we end up? Like, is this where we end up? And I just remember looking at myself going, you're overweight, you're frumpy, you're sad, you've got like bags under your eyes, you look depressed, like you're sad. And I remember I was 35 years old, almost 36. And I remember thinking, is this what happens? Like, you have a baby, you made bad decisions or whatever it is. And now this is just it. This is it. Life
this is your life. Like, this is it. Yeah.
And I had this is like 4 months of me being depressed and sad and blame and circumstance and mad at all, like the world, there's all the things. But I had this moment with myself, and I remember just looking at myself and going, it doesn't have to be where you end up. No, it doesn't have to be.
They're not your circumstances.
No. So I turned, and I remember the question, if any of you are listening, relating at all, like you're going through something right now, the question I asked myself was, what if there's something else possible? And I thought back to what I taught so many years as a sales trainer and a sales director. Like, I taught that you can make a new decision. Like, so I remember turning and saying, I'm going to make a new decision. Like, I've decided this is not going to be my life, that I want something different. And as I kept walking back home with this new thought, every step I took, I thought, what if anything was possible? What if there's something else? And every step I got like this little bit of hope, but I still had that voice. We all have that voice.
Yes,
like, no, but you
can't. The committee.
No, but you're old. No, but you're this. No, but you're that.
Right.
And I just started walking home with this new possibility. That's kind of where it started.
So the epiphany happened at what is perceived or could be perceived, especially, let's just for context purposes, we're living in Southern California, in San Diego, where we know what that image is all about. And you're over here living out there, looking like you're living the American dream, but in a short moment of time, you are watching everything crumble right in front of you. And you're having these conversations with yourself. I mean, in life, especially as women, sometimes we have to be strong just to be strong.
Yeah.
Right. And who, if anyone, because your marriage is going through some challenges, you're a single mom, you've got, 2007, the real estate, all this stuff's crumbling, your credit card was denied, you have to go and do what's the most humbling thing that any young adult needs to do, is call their parents and say, I need your help to co-sign. Yeah. I'm 35 years old, I need help. So who was pouring into you? Where did you get the bandwidth and the strength and the resolve to say, I am not these circumstances?
So I actually didn't have anyone pouring into me at the time. And the reason is I was not authentic with people. I didn't go to my friends. I remember I had one friend that I sat there at dinner, and I still to this day remember the conversation, telling her how bad my life sucks. Like, she just listened, but I was just literally telling her, complaining. And I remember that conversation because I did it with her, and I hadn't done that with anyone else. I didn't call anyone else and say, my life's falling apart, this is happening, whatever. I didn't do that. So I walked home thinking that day, what if there's something else? And I got home and I remember turning on the TV. I put my daughter down for a nap and Oprah was on TV. I loved Oprah.
Good old Oprah days.
And at the time she had Lisa Nichols on as a guest.
Oh.
Lisa became my coach way later in years. But I remember hearing her for the first time, and they happened to be talking about vision. And I thought, how interesting that they're talking about vision when I just asked, like, what if there's something else? And they talked about something called a vision board.
Yes.
So I didn't like the term vision board, but I liked the idea of a decision board. So I remember grabbing...
Oh, wait, hold up. Okay, back up. A vision board versus...
a decision board.
I love that.
So, because a vision board to me felt like kind of woo-woo, but a decision board is like, no, I'm going to put what I'm deciding that I want for myself. So I remember grabbing a bunch of magazines when we used to have a lot of magazines, and I just pulled out pictures of anything that made me happy. And at the time, I wasn't in fitness. I wasn't in any of that. And I remember pulling out pictures of really fit girls on magazine covers. I pulled out like happy mom and daughter. I put out like finding like a relationship, being in a happy relationship. I remember putting views of like really pretty epic views in your backyard. I put lots of pictures of the ocean. And what I noticed pulling these pictures out and putting my decision board on is they evoked a feeling. Like, I would look at these pictures and I would go, I had like a sense of calm, like, oh, that's cool. And I remember making this connection that, oh, if I can focus on what I want and what feels good, I can change how I feel in my body, versus when I'm stuck on my circumstances and everything wrong, I don't like how I feel.
Right.
So I made a decision that I was going to look at this board every day to evoke the feeling. And every single day I would ask myself, if you're the girl living in this board, like if you're the girl living looking at the beach, the happy relationship, like, what actions do you need to take today? And that's honestly as simple as it was, and what started my entire transformation and what started my journey on helping so many other women with that same process.
So the decision board, that aha moment, and the empowerment, the self-empowerment that you sought was how you were poured into, for all intent and purposes. It wasn't that you went to a therapist. It wasn't that you confided in a multitude of friends at that time. Because let's be real, those moments that you experienced are very humbling. And we can take that, because society kind of dictates this as, feeling rid of shame and guilt, and I'm embarrassed because this is where I am in life. Then that negative talk track starts to play over in your head, which allows you to keep focusing on the circumstances that, oh my gosh, this is what my life is going to be.
That's exactly what happened. And, even till this day, and we can go into, I've had countless setbacks over the years that I have to go through this process again. But this is where this process of decide, vision, action came from for me. So I teach a process called decide, vision, action, because I believe with any goal, whether it's your body, it's your financial goal, it's your business, it's your relationship, any goal that there is, you will achieve it by going through this process. Because when a woman comes to me in my fat loss programs, for instance, she says, I've tried everything. Nothing works for me. I hate my body. I hate this. I hate that. And they're telling me all the circumstances, or even compound that with, I was diagnosed with this. I was told this. My genetics are this. I don't have this. Like, they have this list of circumstances.
Yeah.
I have to interrupt that and say, what's your decision? And they're like, what do you mean, what's my decision? Like, this is all my complaints and all my things wrong with me. And I'm like, I got it.
Fix it.
That's your problem right now.
Right.
Well, what's your decision?
Yeah.
And I will tell you, if you ask you ask, anyone listening, ask anyone successful at anything, like their journey, their story, you will rewind and figure out quickly that they started with decision.
And a storm of some sort to get them to make that change, right? Because we can look at social media is so powerful for so many reasons, but it also allows you to translate a person's perceived perfect life when there's so much more going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, right?
Yeah.
So you've taken all of these trials, if you will, and the catalyst, I feel like, and you can confirm this, was the fact that you weren't going to allow that to dictate the next chapter of your life.
So I think there's a lot that we can absolutely not control, and there's some things that we can control. And the one thing we can control is where we put our focus.
Right.
So what I learned from that was that there's some things that are going to pop up, like circumstances will continue to pop up. But are we going to operate from the problem or the possibility?
Right.
Like constantly, I annoy my friends. I annoy my family with this sometimes because they'll tell me a problem. Like, are you looking at the problem or the possibility? And I understand that people don't want to hear that when they're in the problem. They just want to vent. They just want to like.
But that's the truth, though. Think about it, though. If we all focused on the problem, I mean, come on, we wouldn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So you did all of that. The transformation was then beginning. You started getting more into the health and fitness realm. That was, I think, the next business that you ventured into, because your online presence, I think on Instagram alone, is over 700,000. So that doesn't just happen overnight. But with you, I feel like, because I've been watching you through social media, watching you as the layperson, observing your life transform from what you've come from to where you are today and everything in between. You know, when you got into the fitness industry and you decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is my mousetrap right now. Right? Because I'm going to take all this pain, all of these setbacks, and I'm going to focus on the possibilities.
Yeah.
How did you get into the space where you are now? Because it's morphed into where you are now.
Yeah.
But you started off in the health and wellness, and it just took off. Like, it just took off.
So it's funny that you perceive it as it just took off, because to me, there's this whole other, there's this whole other behind the scenes journey. But what I will share is my theme over the years is when I'm authentic, like really authentic, not pretend authentic, not like people go vulnerable posts, here it comes, like real authentic. Like I really share what I'm walking through and what I figured out, not from a victim standpoint, but from a place of power. Like, this is what I'm walking through, this is what I figured out. That is relatable to people, and they follow along on the journey. So with me, back to that decision board, I had a lot of fit girls, and I was not fit at the time when I put those on there. And I decided I was going to get fit. I one time was fit before, so I was like, I'm going to get fit. This is my decision. And I started taking those steps to become that person, because I would look at that board and go, if I'm the girl living in this board, what am I eating? What am I doing? Who am I talking to? What am I around?
What are your choices?
What am I letting in? What are my choices? So I started taking those actions, and I documented what I was doing. And I shared it on Facebook at the time, which I had a very small following there, but I shared it, and people started to take notice. And I was like that original What I Eat poster, like, this is what I ate, and I'm posting here. And I remember saying on Facebook, I'm going to post and share what I'm eating for my own accountability.
Yeah.
And people followed along.
Yeah.
So my very first product was called Stay Lean Recipe. And I remember making a $10 or $12 recipe book that I did for my BlackBerry phone. It was not perfect at all.
It's dating us for sure.
And I put it on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, Stay Lean recipe book here. I had like gross pictures looking back now. And I sold it, and people would say, I want it. I would send them a PayPal link. They would send me the money. I would email them the file. Like, it started old school like that.
Wow.
And then as that progressed, I was getting fit. I was making claims. I was like, I'm going to become a fitness model. Like, now I'm like late 30s, early 40s. It's like, I'm saying I'm going to be a fitness model. And people are like, huh? Like, what do you mean? Nobody's a fitness model at that age. And I'm like, well, but it's a goal. I'm going to do it. So as I started to change my body and show that, like, what I was doing, how the food was working, people said, well, how are you eating and putting this together? So I sat down one weekend and I wrote what's now a best-selling book in stores. It's been revised like so many times, but 7-Day Jumpstart. But I wrote that originally as a 12-page PDF, also from my BlackBerry phone, like nothing special. I remember my husband at the time, because we had just started dating, so not a husband now, but we had started dating then. I asked him to proofread it, and he was like, I'm not going to proofread. Like, nobody's going to buy that. Who wants, like, there's a million people selling fitness and fat loss programs and nutrition. Like, no one's going to buy that. Right. And I was always then even like, I'm not a circumstance person, I'm a possibility. And like, okay, he didn't even proofread it. I remember I put it up with my little PayPal link, and people bought it.
PayPal.
And I remember getting a message from somebody like, you didn't even proofread this. I mean, ADHD all the way here. Like, I just got it out quick.
Yeah,
you know?
of course.
But what happened
Saw a
was
need. Yeah.
people started buying it and they loved it. Like, they were losing 5 pounds, 7 pounds, feeling amazing. So they would send me messages on Facebook like, oh my gosh, this was awesome. I feel incredible. I lost the bloat. I feel amazing. So I would screenshot it and I would say, are you okay with me sharing this? It's so motivating. And they'd say, yeah. So I would say, oh my gosh, y'all, I just got this message from Tammy. Look at this. Go Tammy. And I'd write, who is next?
Oh,
And that just took off. So that one product, that one ebook turned into over $1 million in revenue. I couldn't believe it. Like over $1 million. So,
and what timeline? What time? Like a couple of months?
No, this is like over a year. But still, it was like pretty fast.
That is fast.
Happened.
Yeah.
So as that's happening, my now husband, he starts helping me with the system. Like, he's like, okay, let's automate this. Because we'd be out and I get a message like, oh, they just bought it. I got to go send it to them. It's like, they have to wait. He's like, so then he helped me automate it. Like, and then it got better. It's been revised 6 times now. It's also a book in stores. There's a whole thing behind that. But my point to that story is there was nothing perfect about it. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I certainly wasn't an editor. I was not a photographer. I was not an author. I was a girl who lost her way, who shared her decision on social media. People resonated, they followed, and I created a problem. I solved a problem with something that other people were relating to, and it took off. Now, that ebook that was 12 pages, not proofread, has become a best-selling book in stores. I've got a new version of it that is like 120 pages with videos. And, there's so many things that have changed from that, but it didn't start that way. So when people compare and they're like, oh, I want to do what you did, or you got to go rewind to the very beginning stages of
Right. Because it didn't just appear.
No, it
right.
Didn't
This
just appear.
again, and the power of social media makes it look like, oh my God, this just happened overnight. No, there was a lengthy process.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of crying, a lot of questioning, a lot of doubting, a lot of, oh my gosh, is this really going to happen? What do I do next? A lot of that took place in between because we have a committee in our head, right? That governs everything. And we are only as good as the people that we're surrounded with and the thoughts that we put out there. So our thoughts become our words, become life, right? So you kind of had this trajectory. So that takes off.
Yeah.
Then that catapults you. I remember seeing you on magazines, featured in, segments on TV, and just going like more and more.
What
and more.
happened from there is, this is a really good lesson in growing a business and what can go wrong, and then what you want to look at too, because I believe in starting messy. Like, you just start when you're feeling inspired, and I did. I started messy. But you also need to listen to your audience. And I was really listening to who was buying this from me and getting results. And the next thing they wanted was the workouts. They're like, okay, you helped us with nutrition. What are the workouts?
Right.
I didn't know anything about, I actually had gotten my own certification. I became a licensed master sports nutritionist. I became a functional fitness trainer. I got all the credentials because I was learning for myself.
Yeah.
So I then had them, but I hadn't been sharing like how to do things. But I had never done, at the time, DVDs were still big. They were on the way out, but they were still big.
DVDs.
So I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to teach them fitness. But I didn't I didn't know what I was doing. So I remember calling and hiring Tammy Lee Webb, because she was my idol back in the day as far as like Buns of Steel. And I thought, she's the best of the best. So let me call her. And I hired her to help me produce my DVDs. So I, on my own, with her help, did 4 DVDs. And learned all this. And what was crazy is I became recognized by like Forbes and Greetus at the time as like one of the top fitness influencers. And I thought, that's so funny. I'm not a top fitness. I just found a problem that I had a solution for, and I helped others. And in those DVDs, I taught body weight workouts at home because that's what I was doing.
Right.
So I shared, so everything was great so it looked on the surface like I'm making money now. I'm now dating, Brooks, who's now my husband. Things are changing and exploding, but then you bring on circumstance number 2. And that was, I didn't know how to run a business. I had no idea how to run a business. I just knew how to teach good information and share and help. But I got in my head around it, just being truthful. Like, I didn't know. You're supposed to delegate. Okay, I'll hire a bunch of people. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
So just as fast as that business built up, it crashed down because I didn't know how to run a business and I didn't know how to ask for help around that either for a while.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a lot of people working for you.
I had a lot of people working for me, and it was much money as we were bringing in. I had nothing to show for it, literally nothing to show for it. Like it came in and it went out. It came in and it went out. And that created a lot of stress with my relationship because neither one of us, quite honestly, knew how to run a business. I think of myself as a very solid, strong business person now. I always have more to learn.
Yeah.
But I'm blessed and grateful those hardships happened because it really gave me the school of hard knocks and it taught me what to do, what to not do.
Well, and it also, like anything else, and we've shared, previously about our faith, right? And, God doesn't open a door until he knows for sure that you can not only walk through it, but that you are prepared to handle the success that he's going to bless you with. So you went through all of that. You were instantly successful with that book. $1 million in a year is crazy. And then you take that and you hire people, you bring people on that are going to help you advance this, this new mousetrap that you have. And you have the setbacks. So you learn, you have a setback, you grow, you have a setback. And each time you're learning from your previous mistakes to say, okay, I'm not going to do that this time. So now that you've got that all dialed in, you have, I don't even know how many arteries of business you have going on now. But the one thing that resonates with me that I'm sure resonates with a lot of women out there and men as well, but particularly women, is the midlife experience that we all go through. And your podcast talks about that. And you have programs geared towards that. You're collaborating with other women in that space to help. And and to be frank, because I've discussed this on my podcast before, I had my breast implants removed. You recently had yours removed. So that puts a whole different monkey into this whole diatribe of things that we're navigating through our life, our health, where we are now, our identity, right? Because that switches the gear for everything.
Totally.
So let's talk a little bit more. So you've done the health and wellness part of it. You've succeeded. You keep succeeding. Midlife experiences for women. You're collaborating with all these other people in this space. Talk about that midlife thing because we go through it. It's real.
So when I first was growing my business and connecting with people, it was really over getting your life back and taking ownership and making a decision. And I found health and fitness was the vehicle to help me do that. Like I knew I couldn't control so many circumstances, but I could absolutely control what I was putting in my body. Right. I could control how I was moving it. I could take care of that physically. So I was doing that, but it was very surface level. It was how we appear, how we look, right? I didn't fully understand health. I understood unprocessed foods. I understood eating to, I actually was a celiac, so I understood that. Yeah. I didn't understand hormone changes. I didn't understand gut health. I didn't understand trauma. I didn't understand. There was so much I just didn't understand. So as I evolved, I was also getting older like everybody else. So I started my whole trajectory of my business at 35, 36. Now, at the time of us recording, I'm 52. So a few years back, I started feeling disconnected again. I started feeling like this doesn't really feel good just to be teaching how to get abs. It doesn't feel good to teach, especially when I was struggling with my own stuff. Like all of a sudden, I was gaining weight. I was having a blood sugar dysregulation. I was having hormone swings. I was having all this stuff happen and I didn't understand it. So instead of leading women with fitness, fat loss at that time, I said, I need to pause this. I need to stop it. So I paused my programs. In fact, I referred a lot of people to another friend's program. I was like, I just need a break from this for a while. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew I needed to pause and focus on myself. And I ended up in the hospital, like literally having a blood sugar dysregulation. It was, I would eat strawberries and my blood sugar would shoot to like 250. It was crazy. I didn't know what was going on. I have type 2 diabetes in my family. I thought maybe it's that. Didn't know what was going on. Was in the hospital for 2 days. Couldn't get to the root of it. I thought something was wrong with my pancreas. There was a lot happening there. But because I had, at the time, with the insurance I had, I maxed out my deductible. I thought, let me just go get all my regular health checks. So I went and got a mammogram. I did all the things. And on that mammogram, I saw a ruptured implant, or they saw a ruptured implant. Now, I had had breast implants for 33 years, 5 sets over 33 years. And years ago, I was in Costa Rica doing some deep work. And what came up during that deep work was that I was supposed to write a book about not being fake, about like,
I just got chills.
I'll just kind of pause on that now. That theme came up, and I remember telling my husband at the time that I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, I don't know what to do with that. And I remember having this thought that I need to remove my implants, that I need to remove my
How many years
nails.
ago
Like,
was this?
this is, I guess it was probably 4 years ago
Okay.
now, but it was almost like it came, I don't know. I was in the place I was at, we're just doing the deep work. This is what came up for me, but I kind of like noticed it, but I didn't really want to do anything with it. So anyways, fast forward to I have this mammogram and, I see that there's a ruptured implant. Actually, I'm skipping a step there. Before I knew the ruptured implant and had the mammogram, I have a friend that kept saying, blood sugar dysregulations could be caused from parasites. And I was like, I thought she was crazy. My friend Laura, I'm like, she's crazy. What's she talking about?
Parasites.
Okay,
Come on.
Whatever.
Right.
That happens in like weird places.
Right.
Like,
Mexico. I'm down there. No, it's not happening.
No, I don't have But she ordered me a test, and it actually showed up on the test that I had parasites.
Those are brutal.
Yeah,
That's
so
a
I go
brutal
through
experience.
This whole process with her to clear them, which was all new to me, and it really turned me on to how important your gut health is, and leaky gut, and all. So even if you look healthy, you can have this going on. So we do this work. I start feeling better. Everything's starting to change and pivot. I'm realizing that it's my hormones, but it's obviously more this. And she says, something feeds parasites. Like they don't just happen in your body. Like something's feeding them. So it could be metals, it could be mold, it could be. And then I learned about this rupture. Yeah. And I had something called the gummy bear implants, and they're massively ruptured. And it didn't even enter my brain, Tammy, that I'm going to go remove them. It was like, oh, I'll go replace them.
Take them out, fix it. Yeah. Right.
So fast forward on that, I couldn't sleep at night with that decision to replace them.
Because it was weighing so heavily on your mind and your heart, because you were already in that space, Natalie, I feel, that you knew what you needed to do.
Yeah.
But it was letting go of the familiar.
And the identity.
Because I struggle with that as well. But the minute I knew they were the source, I was like, I couldn't get them out fast enough.
Well, this was so deep rooted for me because this started at age 15. I had a nose job. I literally chased beauty standards my whole freaking life. And here I am, I had a nose job at 15. I was doing, my parents valued beauty, and it was like such a big, important thing in my life. Yeah. I strived for it. I just wanted this. And then I became a fitness model. And so it's like, this was an identity crisis. Shallow as it might sound to you listening, this became an identity. And so all of a sudden I'm like, I have to remove these things. I get to remove them.
Right.
That was really messing with my head. Yeah. No one else cared about my boobs, but for me, this was an identity thing.
And the space that you created in your business is so image-based, right? And it fed into back to that decision board. I want the beautiful this, the beautiful that. So all of that tied into this whole narrative that you've been ascribing to. Now you're faced with the authenticity of who Natalie Jill really is.
So all this was going on, and even though I knew not every female was struggling with removing their implants or parasites or whatever it is, this to me was a midlife massive mess, midlife mess, and I'll call it. And I, transitioned my podcast to Midlife Conversations, and I thought there's so many more questions I have about midlife, because we're all figuring out our identity. You go through identity crises at different points in your life. As a teenager, you're figuring out who you are. As a young adult, there's all these different points, right? But I would say in my 50s, it's really going back and going, wow, where did these beliefs come from? Where did this start? What were all these things? And is it true that aging just has to suck? I had these questions. So removing the implants for me were such a big step in my journey, but also opened up me to bigger conversations about midlife in general. I had to go back and look, I put those implants in at age 19. I had to basically repent for a decision I made at age 19. Yeah. You don't know who you are at age 19. No. And I look back now, I'm like, wow, I made this decision then that messed up my health later, that set my whole life in this crazy direction. So midlife to me now, and why I want to have midlife conversations, there's so many tiers to it, so many different layers, and it's not just your hormones, it's not just your age. There's so much in your life that brought you to who you are today. Yeah. So midlife conversations is being there to help support women unpacking a lot of this.
So the culmination, it sounds like it's the culmination of where you were to where you've arrived now, right? And the evolution of your brand, the evolution of who you are as a person, the evolution of where you're going, the evolution of your business. It's all stemming from, hey guys, I've done the work. I'm not perfect, but here's what I do know.
Well, here's what I want to say to that. I've done work. I've not done the work. There's a lot of work to be done. There's so many levels of this and steps, and I don't feel that midlife women feel, for the most part, supported. Yeah. There's very few of us really speaking into the midlife space. And, when I was building my new website, Midlife Conversations versus just Natalie Jill Fit, I remember having my team look for stock images of midlife women that were happy and fit, and like they all look like I would have described my grandmother. Like,
what is this?
Not the Golden Girls.
What is this image?
Yeah. So there's just this new. I have friends that are living a great life in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Like they're thriving. They still look amazing. They're strong. They're fit. They're doing pull-ups at the gym. All the things, like, why can't midlife be that?
Yeah.
And that hit me there. That's also a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
How do you want that to be for you?
So let's talk a little bit of it, because you've gone through a metamorphosis of sorts, and you continue to evolve, and where your business is going now, I'm sure you're 5 steps ahead as far as, what does that look like? If you were to say, where do you get the courage? Like honestly, because I know for myself, when I made the decision to become authentic, I thought I was authentic. Had the breast implants, I had the fake eyelashes, I did the fillers, I did it all, and I lived it well, right? Let's say it, we did it well. But when I made the decision to remove them, my health suffered tremendously. But with that, I wanted to remove everything that no longer served me, that was part of that identity. Eyelashes, filler, the whole 9 yards. So how I appear now is exactly who I am, and it's authentic.
Yeah.
So I know that takes work. So for you, I know my courage comes from my faith.
Right.
So where did you get the courage, aside from the fact that I'm not focusing on the problem, I'm focusing on the possibilities? Where do you get your courage from? Who pours into you now? Like, who is your source of inspiration? You've got Brooks helping you out. You've got your daughter who's grown now. What's the next chapter looking like for you? And where are you getting this? What keeps you going to help women to keep saying, hey, midlife doesn't have to look like this stock image. I'm midlife. You're midlife. Yeah. Like, this is the new midlife. Where do you get your inspiration? Where do you get your courage?
I can't take credit for the courage, and I can't even put it on a person. I'd have to say it's God, because it's bigger. It's so much bigger than me or you or anything. Like, I don't know why things have happened, or I feel like I get myself in these situations, and I used to make jokes like, oh, I'm injured so I can overcome it and I can teach. Like, I had 4 major injuries in 2 years before I took my pause from my bicep. Like, just things kept happening. And the only thing I can circle back to is God. Yeah. I mean, actually, I have the word surrender tattooed on my arm.
I never knew that. I like that.
I did that after in my Costa Rica trip, when I had that epiphany. Like, that came to me. So I can't take credit for it. But I will say, my advice to other people is there has to be something outside of us. If we're trying to do it all of ourselves, that's like a flawed way. It's not going. Our ego will check us.
Yeah, it is.
Will have things happen if you have a bigger purpose. And you said I'm probably 5 steps ahead knowing what I'm creating. I'm actually not anymore. I'm clear on how I want to feel. I'm clear on what I want to stand for, but I'm pretty fluid in where that's going to take me.
Yeah. So you've got the Midlife, the podcast. I love, I listened to a few of them, and it's so powerful that you're taking examples that you've lived, and you're collaborating and you're shedding light on it for women to give them hope. And you inspire so many people, period. Not just women, not just men. You at some point made a contract with yourself, right? You made a commitment with yourself that I feel like, based on what you're sharing, has been broken a few times because, you change, you evolve, things present themselves, setbacks happen. What is a contract that you're making or have made with yourself now that allows you to continue to help in the space that you are helping, given what you've been through with the breast implant situation, parasites, gut health, all of this? Again, the layperson could look at that and go, oh my God, woe is me. Like, woe is me, I'm sick, I'm this. And you become, your identity becomes your sickness, right? Yeah. So you didn't allow that to happen. So what are you working on now to further that level of inspiration to people?
I think the first answer that comes to mind is just the line, it's not about me, because I've made it about me so many times, and that's what goes wrong. Like, when we try to make everything about us, like my problems, my this, my goal, my this, it's very self-serving, and it flops, and it's comfortable to make it about you. I'm just saying, so I think what comes up for me is, and I'm not perfect at this by any means, but working on this idea that it's just not about me. Like, these journeys I share, it's about other people. What I'm doing is to help other people. It's funny. I actually I have programs and I have tons of free information for women too. Like my podcast, I pay for that and it's free for people. I have YouTube. I have all my content on social. I'm doing that. I'm creating that for free for people. But of course, I sell things too. I have my deeper dive programs for people that really want help. And I've had to let go of people pleasing too. So the other day, this really stood out. That's why I'm going to say it. I don't see a lot of my Instagram messages, but I happened to see this one. Somebody had written in asking for guidance on their weight and their health and whatever. And you could find so much of my stuff for free, by the way.
Yeah.
And she was responding to a video where I was teaching stuff for free.
Yeah.
And my team had responded to her with, you can find a lot of Natalie's free information, but if you want to go deeper, here's a link to this program. It sounds like you'd be perfect for it. So they were doing what I've taught them to do. This woman full on attacked with like the most evil language, like, you are the most self-absorbed. How dare you just be about money? I can't believe I see through your sleazy sales tactic. It was like this, whoa.
Yeah.
And I at first it's like, huh? And then I'm thinking, does she work for free? Because I don't think she does.
Right.
And you can use my free stuff. I have lots of it. But to go deeper and get my coaching and whatever, you got to pay for that. And when she said that, and I had to take my lesson, it's not about you, really to heart, because your first reaction is to get defensive and go like, screw you, block,
attack,
delete, whatever, attack, right? That's about me. I'm like, wait a minute, no, it's about her. She's hurt, she's struggling, she needs help. Like, this is not about me. It's not about me.
Yeah.
So when you ask that
the
question,
grace that you extended was very much
it doesn't
appropriate.
mean I'm going to go give her free or whatever.
Right.
I still may not respond or whatever, but it's, that lesson comes up in so many different ways. It's not about me. And I'm, again, not perfect at it. My husband says that all you care about is comfort. You want to be comfortable. I'm like, yeah, I do. But I have to remember, how can I work on that to serve more people?
And that's the bottom line, right? It isn't about us. And that stems from my faith as well. It's not about me. It's about how can I serve? How can I serve this person in this moment? Because it does take a very strong person to not look at that and attack, because the natural inclination is to, oh no, you don't, here's I'm going to prove that I'm not all of these things, right? But instead, with grace, you just said, okay, you know what, she's hurting, she needs help, how can I help her in however way, right?
And I'm not perfect at it.
Exactly.
When you put yourself out there, you're gonna draw yourself open to criticism and attacks, and people love to comment on my forehead and my eyebrows because I don't do Botox. So my forehead moves like it's supposed to.
Come on, guys.
It literally moves
like you can actually have emotion.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and I, at some point, there's points in my life where I tried Botox and I did not like it for me. I didn't like what it did to my eyebrows. I didn't like how it made me feel. I didn't like it. So I don't do it. And my eyebrows move and my forehead, and I'm very expressive.
Yeah.
But there's not a day that goes by that someone doesn't make a comment about my brows. They say you have bad Botox. I'm like, no, I just don't have it. It's like, you still. So
come on, people.
I did a post the other day on castor oil, which I'm obsessed with castor oil.
Love.
And someone wrote on there, you should use it on your forehead for your deep lines. They were being very passive aggressive. So again, not about me, but you take. So I screenshot it and I put it on my stories, calling her out.
Right.
So I'm not perfect at this.
No, listen, nobody is. We're human. I mean, at the end of the day, and then you're in a very public space.
Yeah.
So you're going to get those naysayers. You're going to get them, but that you just keep doing you, and that's all that matters, because the impact you're making is greater than that.
That's what I look at it.
Right.
So it's yes, we all have egos. Every single person does. We all have feelings. We should have feelings, unless you're
void of them.
Yeah.
Unless the Botox took its toll and you just can't tell if I'm happy, sad, glad, or mad, right?
Yeah.
So you've done all of this. The evolution of Natalie Jill is still occurring. You're growing. If somebody wanted to find you, obviously it's all over social media, it's all over the internet, your free services, all of that. How would you describe where you've arrived now?
Gosh, I struggle when people say, what do you do? And part of me wants to be like, it depends on the day. I mean, that's what's one
depends on what time.
Yeah. So I would say that I help midlife women redefine aging. And I do that by simplifying complicated information. Right. And I'm very open and share what I'm walking through. So I interview and bring in, I do a lot of collabs. I do a lot of master classes where I bring on and invite people for free to listen, to learn about hormones, to learn about gut health, to learn about movement, whatever. I do a lot of give back stuff. Yes, I also sell programs too, but I 90%, 95% of what I do is free.
Yeah.
And you can learn from the free stuff, or you can go deeper with me on programs. So there's that. I have a whole nother side that I do that's just enjoyable for me of my business that's you would not find on social media. And I love sales and messaging and teaching people how to show up on video and create great content. So I do have clients, and I have a whole business where I help people with that.
Yeah.
That's not something I would market on social media. Like, that's like a word of mouth. People like, and it's just more my fun hobby with that. I love doing that.
So you love helping, period.
I like being a teacher, and I like simplifying information.
Yeah. You're a true servant, though. I mean, you're. If I were to describe you, I would say she serves. You really do.
I think I do.
Yeah. You really do.
Again, I can always be better at that, but
you really do. So what's one thing you're grateful for right now?
The first thing I'm the most grateful for is my daughter. And I'm not saying that because she's sitting right here, and she might roll her eyes at me.
She's acting like we're not talking about it.
I'm most grateful for that experience, like that I have a daughter, that I got to be, get to be a mom, that so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my husband. Again, I always say not every marriage is perfect. My marriage is certainly not perfect, but I'm grateful that I have him and I love him and he loves me unconditionally. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my perspective of opportunity versus obstacle, because it's saved me so many times. Again, I fall victim to obstacle a lot, and I quickly can get out of it. I can shift out of it quicker because I'm grateful for that perspective. I'm grateful for friends and reconnections, and I've got a lot of really authentic friendships now I didn't used to. I would say I've cleaned house on friends. I had a lot of friends that was very surface level. It was very agenda driven, why people came into my life. I don't have that anymore. I don't have any of those fake friends anymore. I have very real connections. I'm also grateful for God. I'm not where a lot of people would like me to be with faith. I'm not where, but I would not have even known God or understood God if it wasn't for my daughter and my husband. I will say that. They are both saved at the same time, different reasons. But that influence for me opened my eyes.
The gratitude that I can feel and sense, it's truly authentic. And you mentioned something about, your husband loving you and accepting you for who you are and truly are. I can tell you, and now how you don't have these authentic friendships because, they just aren't in alignment with who you are now. When I made the decision to remove my implants, it was almost like God said, now I'm going to remove everything else that was symbolic of that life.
Wow.
He removed significant relationships. Wow. He removed significant personal relationships, significant friendships. He removed business opportunity. Everything that was intertwined with how that Tammy showed up it's almost like he extracted them from my life, right? So I'm hearing you say about how the friendships.
Very similar experience,
right?
I think. Yeah, and I think the implants were like, there's this whole thing. I mean, this can sound weird, but if you think about where your implants are, they're like covering your heart. Right. They're like protecting your heart. And I think by removing them, it's like more real and a lot. Like there's so many layers to this that has changed. I mean, it's not only has it just changed my health and how I feel, but it's really had me do a deep dive on my life and what I want to change, what I would do different. Like there's so many layers to it, but I can totally feel what you're talking about.
Very, very symbolic. And it was a very, an eye-opening experience. But Natalie, I'm so grateful that you took the time. I know you have a busy schedule. If someone wants to find you, what's your website? What's your social media information? Because I can tell you I'm probably going to get a lot of DMs about this one.
Natalie Jill Fit is where you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. That's probably the primary place, Natalie Jill Fit. My podcast is called Midlife Conversations.
Okay.
So those are probably the best places to start.
And last question. If there's someone out there listening and they're going through or have gone through something that you've experienced times 10 and they have no hope and they're feeling like, how am I going to pay for my lights to stay on? How am I going to take care of my baby or babies? There is no other option for me. What would you suggest they do now?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to give you compassion and tell you I don't understand your exact situation, your exact circumstance, but I have a lot of compassion for being in a horrible situation where you feel this way. Your only choice is to not focus on what is and focus on what you want to create. And that might sound really out there, really weird, really like, but why? But the more you keep validating the problem, your friends, your family that go, "You're right, that sucks," that's not helpful. Saying "you're right, that sucks" is not helpful.
Right.
So what I'm going to encourage you to do is not only get clear on what you want, to focus on what you want, but also ask for help.
Yeah.
And be very clear on what you're asking for. Like, what am I asking for help for? What do I need?
Yep.
Who do I need to ask? Be very direct, not very oh, my life just sucks.
Yeah.
But specifically, what do you need? I guarantee you have people in your life, if you ask them directly for what you need help with, they will help. Just like I reached out to my mom that day.
Yeah.
Not everyone has that. I probably would have found somebody that I would have just asked directly for help and said, I need to borrow, or I need to whatever to get myself together.
Yeah.
But take accountability and responsibility and focus on what you want, not what is.
Yeah. And that you're not your circumstances.
You're not your circumstances. And I don't care if you have to fake it till you make it. That's like a weird.
So
I always say
true.
act as if. So
Yeah.
And I'll just say the ways I say act as if is not pretending or lying. It's more, I want you to think of it as if I'm this future version of myself, what would I need to do?
Yeah.
What would I need to do?
Almost like it's already happened.
Yeah.
That
So
kind of person.
and just a quick example. When I was going through my awful rock bottom, my first rock bottom, and I put those images of the ocean on I didn't live at the beach, but I remember thinking I wanted that. And I thought, well, if I lived at the beach, what would I do at the beach? Well, if I lived at the beach, I'd be walking on the beach every day. I'd be looking at the ocean every day. So I, every single day, drove to the beach and walked there and journaled there just to put myself in that situation. Wow. So I put myself in those situations that I want to create. And I still do that today.
Yeah.
I still do that today. Like, I think like if I'm in an expansive situation, I appreciate the expansiveness and I take advantage of the expansiveness. But instead of saying, I will never have that, or, and I'm watching what's happening in the world right now, there's a greater divide between the haves and the have-nots.
Oh, yes.
I mean, this is like repeating from
fine line
years ago, but and what I see happening is a lot of the have-nots, or they put themselves in the have-not, are attacking the people that have, and that's going to get nowhere. Mm-hmm. It's literally going to get nowhere.
Right.
What you want to do is go, what is it that I want, and how do I act and start attracting that kind of stuff.
So you guys, there you have it. Sage words of advice from Natalie Jill. If you want to work with her one-on-one or do deeper dives, reach out to you, go to your website, check her out. I'm telling you guys, and having known Natalie for as long as I have and watching her evolve into who she is and continue to evolve, she's living it. She is the epitome of doing the work, continuing to do the work. She's living it. She's taking all of her experiences. She's helping others who might be experiencing the same thing, if not more. And she's thriving. And not just financially, but you're thriving as a human being. You're changing lives. You're serving those that are around you, and you continue to. So if there's a takeaway here today, you are not defined by your circumstances. There is a way out. You do have options. You already know the answers. It's deeply embedded in who you are. You just have to make the decision and have the vision to do it. So as always, San Diego, grateful. Natalie, thank you so much. I cannot tell you how I am just so honored to have you here. San Diego, as always, we love you. Stay classy, San Diego. Peace out.